Hello everyone, and welcome to our 31st UFI Connect session for today, where we will discuss the reopening of Dubai, destination for tourism, business tourism, and events. So before we get started, let me give you a quick housekeeping notes. This session is recorded. Please keep your microphones on mute. We will ask you to unmute when you have a question to our panelists. And if you have any questions, and please prepare your questions, type them down on the chat function, and our team will select those questions, and you can address them directly to our speakers. I would like to start by welcoming our panelists for today. Mahir Julfar, Executive Vice President, Dubai World Trade Center. Steen Jakobsen, Vice President, Dubai Tourism, and Simon Mellor, CEO, Messe Frankfurt, Middle East. While we are in what it seems to be a race with time, especially with the year 2020, many cities and countries are reopening for business and for events in some sort of guidelines, especially in the Middle East region. Dubai was the first city to reopen for business, for events, and for tourism. For this, I would like to start with our first panelist for today, Steen Jakobsen from Dubai Tourism. Steen, hello, how are you?
I'm good, Naji. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, thank you. So, Steen, last month, Dubai Tourism officially released the events industry guidelines for reopening. Many entities with different mandates participated in these guidelines. So please take us through these guidelines, and how could you find a balance between, the needs and the necessities and the mandates of different guidelines to come up with something that that works for everyone from a safety point of view and from business point of view?
Well, hello everyone. First of all, let me say I hope everyone is doing well, and that your friends, your family, and your colleagues are keeping safe and healthy during these challenging times for all of us. And thank you to everyone for being part and listening in today. Well, first of all, let me take a step back before we talk about the events guidelines. So when the pandemic also hit Dubai and the UAE back in March, there was a very quick, very proactive response from the authorities. There was an early lockdown during April and May, and then a gradual opening of the various economic sectors started happening from June onwards. By the end of June, pretty much all economic sectors were again operating. Dubai then opened its borders for international visitors as of July 7th, one of the first cities in the world to do so. As part of the gradual reopening, and that was really a sort of I think key to the success that Dubai has achieved, that the gradual was very controlled, or the reopening was very controlled, and it was very gradual to ensure that we were not moving too far too quickly. With measures put in place, such as mandatory wearing of face mask when you're outside, temperature screening when you enter various buildings, obviously the physical distancing and other things have allowed us to be pretty much operating as normal. When it comes to events, we were given the green light to resume local business events as of 15th of September, and in just a few days, on 1st of October, also international business events can resume in Dubai. This will happen under a set of precautionary measures and guidelines that has been developed in a close collaboration between public and private partners, to ensure that on the one side that the guidelines, they are assuring health and safety, which is the #1 priority for delegates, for organizers, and everyone involved in events. And on the other hand, ensuring that also the events can take place, and that's you can do the things at events like the networking, the education, the learning, all these things that business events really are the platforms for doing, that also is possible under these guidelines.
Okay, Steen, so yeah, with these guidelines, with the responsiveness and readiness of Dubai, do you think that the confidence of business travelers has come back? And when do you expect, or is there, any forecast for when the number of business travelers come back to the pre-COVID-19 numbers? But first, let's talk about the confidence. Did you see that this is enough to gain back the confidence of the business travelers?
I think it's an important step and something that is necessary in order to gain that confidence back. But we must also be realistic that it will take quite a while before we are back at pre-COVID levels when it comes to business events. One thing is that we've issued these guidelines, and then that we have opened again for business events in Dubai. However, we must also remind ourselves that a lot of the countries from which travelers and attendees at business events in Dubai, as well as organizers, that they are in countries that currently are under restrictions from a travel point of view. And until we're in a situation where such travel restrictions are lifted, we will not be back to pre-COVID level. However, I would say that now that the guidelines are out there, we're communicating them quite heavily and letting the world know that Dubai is now open for events again. That is part of building that confidence back, and that's what we will need to continue to do in the months to come.
Great, thank you so much, Steen. Mahir Julfar from Dubai World Trade Center. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Mahir, I have a question for you, also related to guidelines, but the ones for Dubai World Trade Center that you have recently launched in response to COVID-19. So can you please take us through the venue's journey as part of these guidelines, very briefly, if possible?
Sure. Thank you, Naji, and hello, everyone, and thanks for having me today. And of course, special thanks to our partners, organizers, and the government authorities for their constant dialogue and support. Before I take you through our journey, I would like to highlight some points. The new reality, of course, is challenging, and the number of cases increasing around the world, travel bans, varying policies, country to country, a number of people allowed, at a given time in a venue or an event, as well as the repercussion on the global economy. Now, having said that, out of every crisis, there is always an opportunity for transformation. And we are at Dubai here, with the government, with our partners, with our private sector, we're always looking, constantly on doing, things differently. So there's always going to be unexpected challenges with different scenarios, per event and location. And the good news is we are getting better and more understanding of the new norm of hosting events. So just go to the slide. Thank you very much. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So first, I want to thank the team who actually did this simple slide for me. As you can see, what we did was when the first hit came in January, between January and February, we were working with the local authority and basically understanding what needs to be done. And then as we went through, of course, we all know what happened. I'll just go quickly between March and May what happened. During the COVID, the lockdown happened, and then we started using this time to deliver some of our, immediate projects, trainings, and following the procedures of the government guidelines. Of course, we were working very closely with the government, with the local government, to kind of come up with the best solution as the quickest solution. And recently, between June and August, when basically the events were they started in phases to open, and the first phase was on smaller meetings and trainings, and then in July we launched the Dubai Sports World, and of course AI was the first business event. And today, we've kind of found the best solution, and at the same time, we've made sure that the venue is safe, and we were actually given a prestigious, what's it called? Yeah, we had the safeguard. Basically, we were certified by the Bureau of Veritas as a safeguard label. So we can go to the next stage. Yeah. So here, basically, we've mapped out the entire journey from pre-arrival, planning, build-up of the event, and then during the event, of course, post-event. So everything is very linked between the contractors, organizers, exhibitors, visitors, and back again to the contractors. So everything is in place. We've made sure the organizers, and we're actually working very closely with the organizers in terms of delivering what's best for the visitors, the exhibitors, and our employees as well. I just want to go to the operational. No, next. The other one. Next one. Yeah. Just no, before, please. Can you go back? Yeah. Just a quick update, basically map how the team have actually responded. So we've got, we've managed to basically build a team that's taking care of the health and safety, housekeeping, engineering, the F&B, the protocol and security, our information technology team, and as well as the corporate operation. So the whole company's come together to deliver what's best and safe for everyone. Then next. Yeah, this is just a reminder of what we actually were certified by Bureau Veritas Safeguard label, and we've actually introduced a new logo, which is the venue safe. So whenever any visitor or exhibitor sees a staff wearing the venue safe logo, they can actually ask them for any questions, and they can actually be representing the venue as the safeguard champion. This is our latest guidelines on how we manage events. So it's on our website, and I think anyone can have access to it. I'm happy to answer any questions coming forward. Some images about what measures we've taken through. Again, everyone's doing the same thing. It's not something new. What I'll be talking, what we would like to see today is what needs to be happen, going forward with everyone's support and expertise here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahir. Thank you for these slides. I know this is a summary of a 98-page document, I believe. Yeah, quite long one. Thank you so much. I'd like now to move to Simon Mellor from Messe Frankfurt. Hello, Simon.
Hi, Naji. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
Very well, thank you.
Great.
Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for joining us. So, Simon, before I ask you my first question, I would like you to give us an overview of Messe Frankfurt events in 2020, 2021. I know that you had events early in the year, so like you were among maybe the luckier event organizers who had events in, I think, January and February. But recently we saw that the same event for January 2021 has been postponed. So can you give us please an overview of events at Messe Frankfurt?
So I'll break it down into two parts, Naji, if I may, and let me echo the comments of Steen and Mahir in terms of the appreciation. I've sat through most of your UFI seminars. They've been an excellent way of bringing the industry together. I'd also like to compliment the Dubai government, Dubai Tourism and the Trade Centre, because they are very supportive, flexible partners in what is, I think for all of us, pretty much an unprecedented crisis in the industry at this moment in time. From a global perspective, Messe Frankfurt first felt COVID in China. We were losing events throughout China in January. That followed a wave through into Asia, followed into Africa, through Europe, Italy, Germany, the UK, France, Spain, and now into US and South America. So we've been in a virtual event lockdown for 6 months globally. And you can imagine that has been an extremely difficult process to deal with. It has brought out some very innovative approaches throughout that period of time, and we are now actively physically running events in China. We've run over 13 major events, but they are entirely domestic exhibitors and domestic visitors. That market sustains it, unlike the Middle East. So we're seeing a little bit of a bounce back. We've seen a very, very interesting pivot into digital. We've had a global digital task force operating across all of the 30 subsidiaries for the last 4 or 5 months. We've actively launched events on very short timelines in the US, in Germany, in Italy, in South Africa, and here in the UAE. And we are constantly testing new platform partners. From a local point of view here in Dubai, you're quite right, our last event was Intersec in January, very successful, albeit in fairly difficult, trying times, but a very successful event. And really from that point on, we've seen a virtual lockdown. We were out of our offices until the beginning of August. We had everybody back in the offices from August, and we were pivoting events back from March through to August, September, and October. Each year, each month, hoping that maybe the heat of the summer would beat the virus. That proved to be an incorrect judgment. Concertina events back into the back half of the year. And subsequently, we've just lost our major beauty show. And we've also had to take a difficult decision as far as Intersec. So it will be almost an entire year by the time Jan rolls by that we will have hosted our last event.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Simon. So we've seen the guidelines for reopening business events from Dubai Tourism, from the government side, from Dubai World Trade Center, from the venue side. So what in your opinion, I mean, and these are great for reopening, for restarting events after the great lockdown. But on the longer run, what has a bigger impact in your opinion due to these guidelines? The direct cost of implementing those guidelines on an event organizer, or the indirect cost related to the customer experience that might be impacted if these guidelines will stay for a longer time? Or you think people will adapt and will go back, you know, to practicing business as normal, as usual, with these guidelines in place?
I think there's no simple short answer to that question. I'd start by saying I know the Trade Centre and DTCM have worked very hard in collaboration with industry, which I think has been a key point, to build what I think are a really valuable, well-constructed, well-thought-through set of guidelines. We're not in normal circumstances, so those guidelines are going to present new challenges to organisers. There are some obvious areas. They're not things that can be avoided. We're estimating probably a 12% increase in floor space requirements because of two-way aisles and single aisles. We've tested single aisles in Germany. We know it's a very, very difficult concept to police. By your nature as a visitor in the show, you're moving left and right and back and forward. You leave a briefcase on a stand and you walk away because you meet a friend from a different industry and you're drawn in left and right directions. So very difficult to police that. We're not IKEA. We're not, you know, our organisers and visitors are not used to that process. I think build-up will be more challenging because of the restrictions of personnel by square meters, but it's inevitable. I think teardown's going to take a little bit longer. Graphics costs will probably go up, and I'm not being negative about any of this. It's just the reality and the fact of it. For me, one of the hardest things to police is volume numbers. You know, there's zoning suggestions where we lump halls together. We manage the volume of people in the halls. That'll be a very difficult and frustrating thing for a visitor, be that person that says, sorry, you can't come in until 2 or 3 people have left. So these are our circumstances. I think there are other ways of tackling it, but I would credit and compliment both organizations for what I think are a very constructive set of guidelines.
Okay, Mahir, from Simon's note, were there any specific measures taken to support the event organizers to resume or restart their events? And by their turn to support their stakeholders, I mean exhibitors and visitors. You need to unmute, Mahir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Naji, and thank you, Simon. These are some of the unexpected challenges that we will be, I think, be facing for another year at least. And we understand these challenges. They have cost implications, they have restrictions on the space, access, timings. But the way we've adapted now to these webinars, I think people will adapt to managing their times. Making sure the decision makers are attending the shows rather than three people attending from an organization to a show. I think that there was a recent event, and the outcome of it was the decision makers were attending, and they know the value of their time making that call. So I think the good side of it is that with these experience, with these events, upcoming events, we will know better, and we will know better, and we will deliver better. And that's my main take on this today.
Yeah, sure. We have to work closely, of course, as an industry, and do maybe trial and error, and come up with the best formula. Steen, obviously we spoke about kind of a task force from different entities that you collaboratively worked with to come up with the guidelines. So is this task force still exist? Do you meet often? Do you review those guidelines? Should we expect any updates to these guidelines? Any maybe some kind of loosening restrictions in the future? I know this is all depending on how the situation progresses, but I wanted to know how collaboratively you work with other entities to always review these guidelines to make it easier for travelers, tourists, business travelers to come to Dubai.
Well, first of all, the collaborative approach that has been so successful in Dubai for years when it comes to dealing with so many things has also been an absolutely cornerstone of the approach towards the pandemic. And the fact that government entities as well as private entities has been working closely hand in hand to find new solutions has been absolutely key. For us, with business events, trade shows, conferences and meetings and exhibitions being such a cornerstone of the economy in Dubai, and really very, very important accelerators of various economic sectors, it's very important for us that we continue a close dialogue with all industry partners. So what we have initiated at Dubai Tourism is some permanent committees where we will meet with various key stakeholders from across the industry. We have 2 committees within the area, within the sector, one that is looking at conferences and meetings and the incentive travel business, and then there's another one that is focused on the exhibitions and trade shows. And those are committees that involve the key industry stakeholders in each of those areas that meet on a regular basis to ensure that we can continue that dialogue with the various stakeholders and private partners. When it comes to the guidelines that have been issued, they've been issued according to what the situation is currently. As we know, it's a dynamic situation, and that it will evolve eventually. We will continuously be looking at the guidelines and ensuring that the guidelines are the best fit to what the situation around us is. So it's very likely that we will see at some point that the guidelines will be updated. We've already seen that in other areas of travel and tourism where we've updated the guidelines. The same will happen as the situation progresses for events. So we can make sure that the guidelines that are in place, that they are the best possible fit for the exact situation we're in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steen. Before I move on to some of the audience questions, Simon, a question to you. I know that you were working on a study or a survey, a global one, to better understand the customer behavior. Can you please share with us some of the key findings and what are your asks based on these key findings from government, from the venue, and what are the key messages also to your stakeholders after those findings?
Sure. So Naji, we ran a piece of research starting in June of this year to try and better understand where the pain points were regarding the return to events. We were technically still in lockdown at that point, so we wanted to transition 2 or 3 different surveys over really the next 3 or 4 months to try and see if people's confidences and attitudes were changing. And we looked at a number of key sectors. We looked at willingness to travel, which is essential. We looked at the importance of exhibitions within the marketing profile. We looked at budgets. We looked at plans to attend exhibitions. And we looked at city or country confidence, where people felt safe and secure. We went out to all of our visitors and exhibitors, so a big audience. We've had very, very good response to both of these surveys. We were evenly split in terms of the response across large, medium, small and micro businesses. We saw remarkably in the first round of travel, first research in June, that 50% of the people we were responding were prepared to travel. They were still considering travel. They were relying entirely upon government restrictions rather than their businesses stopping them from travel, which we found quite refreshing. In the subsequent survey in September, that's begun to tighten a little bit, so people are a little bit less likely to travel now. We've seen that small to micro size businesses at sea level and business owner are the most likely to get on a plane and travel, which backs up what Mahir has been saying. We've seen an improvement as far as the value of exhibitions over the course of the last 4 months. So initially we saw people looking at alternatives like digital and virtual. We're seeing a transition back towards major events. I think that's highlighting the fact that potentially some people aren't finding the solutions they're looking for and recognize that the event market is really where it needs to be. We've seen, understandably, budgets compress. We've seen a stronger inclination towards digital. We've seen people in the latest research from September seeing a strengthening in the likely return to events in Q1 2021. So that's positive to see. We see a focus on essential large-scale international events. So people with limited money are starting to reach out to the major shows in the major locations, which of course Dubai is. And again, to Mahir's point, we see a focus of individuals traveling, more senior, less junior, less people attending events as a consequence. There are some key impediments, and flying is the main issue. People are still very reluctant to get onto planes. I think there's a perceptional issue in terms of how people remember travel 6 months ago rather than the reality of what it is now. Vaccine rates highly as a reason to start to re-engage with the industry. Interestingly, from a regional point of view, Africa, MENA, GCC, Asia and Europe are the priority for regions starting to return back to this particular region. From Steen's point of view, and I'd shared this survey with him, Dubai's prominence in this research is phenomenal. It's easily seen as one of the safest cities in the world, and that position has strengthened over the last 4 months. I think that's a reflection of how people have seen Dubai handle this crisis. And to your last point in terms of what can happen now, I think there's always been a sense of an industry coming together whenever there's been difficult times here in the region. That's been seen with previous crisis. And I think we're seeing that now, as Steen is referring to various committees that are being brought together. But we are in very exceptional times, and I think it requires some exceptional thinking at the moment to try and stimulate people to return to this part of the world. It would be very useful, and for us right now, what's cancelling our events is not people's willingness to come to Dubai, it's being able to get back to their home countries. And I think if the government could establish some sort of trade bridge amongst certain key countries, where having attended events here in Dubai be given a degree of health assurance, some sort of valid certificate or statement that says, whilst you've been here, you've been safe. And I think there are some very interesting examples that we can learn from things like Fight Island that's happening in Abu Dhabi, and also the IPL in terms of the way that they have managed to ring fence and isolate. We have world-class airline, world-class airport, we have hotel capacity. If there was some way that we could create a degree of protective management for people coming to and from the venues, staying at hotels, not entirely isolated, but it's not a challenge to live in Dubai's hotels. To manage that journey, we will see a concentration to senior individuals, but I think we need some clear, stimulated thinking where all parties involved in the industry perhaps provide incentives or encouragement to people. And I think Dubai could rise back and really gain value across the world as a city, a modern city that can bring the industry back together. I really think that's a unique opportunity right now.
Thank you, Simon, for sharing these interesting findings of that research. So, Steen, to Simon's point, are trade bridges, or I don't know if you call them something else, market bubbles, are they possible to be done with Dubai?
Well, when Dubai opens its borders again on July 7th, obviously that has been done in a very gradual and very controlled way to ensure that you could still be open, but then at the same time managing the pandemic. One of the requirements today for entering Dubai is that you can present at the time of boarding your plane a negative COVID-19 test certificate. So that has now become the norm. All travelers who are traveling to Dubai, they know they need to get a test in their home country before traveling to Dubai. Equally, at the moment when you are leaving Dubai, this is only for certain countries at the moment. It includes UK and the European Union, and a few other countries around the world. There's also a requirement that you can present a negative COVID-19 test certificate, which means that you need to be tested in Dubai before leaving. Now that provides a certain degree of assurance that before traveling to Dubai, that you have been tested, and also as you get ready to travel back to your home country, you need also to have a test done. The test window is within 96 hours, so that can ensure that's been quite successful. It provides some assurance for both travelers coming to Dubai and leaving again. Tests can be done in Dubai and the UAE, which has really been one of the leading countries in the world when it's come to testing. Compared to the number of residents in the UAE, the number of tests has been incredibly high. Testing is widely available at a very, very low price. It's very easy, very quick to get tested, and you get the results within 12, maximum 24 hours, which means you can then move freely around. That, I think, is absolutely key that we continue with that, and it becomes a norm for us travelers that we know we need to get the test done before traveling.
Okay, I see. Thank you, Steen. We have a question from our audience. Vijay Sharma, you had a question for Mahir. If you can please unmute your microphone and ask the question directly. Vijay?
Hey Naji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hope you're great at your end.
Thank you.
My question is for all the presenters. Thank you very much for sharing the insights. Now, I'm from Singapore, and our situation is quite similar to Dubai. A substantial part of GDP comes from travel and tourism. I would be very keen to know how Dubai is positioning itself for business events. How are you integrating business events for stimulating economy? and what kind of efforts are being taken at both the organizing level and at the national level to position in business events as the stimulant and accelerant for driving businesses. Thank you.
I think, Steve, this is more relevant, to you and for, as a Dubai level. So, I mean, I can add to whatever, you add, Steen.
Well, thank you, Mahir, and thank you for that question, Vijay. I would say that events is really in the DNA of Dubai, both when it comes to leisure events. The city normally, the full year-round calendar is full of various events that you can attend as a resident and as a visitor, but also the business events are very, very strong. And in Dubai, the business events, whether it's conferences or trade shows or exhibitions, are really seen as key and very, very important to help drive economic growth within certain key sectors. We have some very large, very significant annual shows within healthcare, technology, construction, food, many other sectors that are there to ensure that those industry sectors, that they continue to thrive, they continue to grow, and those events are integrated into the economic policy within each of those sectors every year. So that's absolutely key that continues. It's very important for the city that we have these events. It drives in a lot of visitors, but it also drives in a lot of business and a lot of investors within these sectors. So that has been recognized from a very, very early stage for decades ago, when some of those events, they were initiated by the government. It's been recognized by the government when these events were initiated, how important they are in driving forward economic development with each of these key industry sectors.
Just to add on to Steen's answer, so at Dubai World Trade Center as well, we actually, yes, we're an exhibition center or a conference center, but at the same time, we've always looked at how to diversify, the space, the product, the services we offer. So we, host almost over 16 event types, from conferences, weddings, exhibitions, concerts, comedy shows, brand sales. So we've never been, empty or on a full hold. So during this, lockdown, yes, we were on hold, but we were planning as well on how to start our first events. The launch started with smaller events, so we immediately launched, smaller events, and as we went through, we started, hosting bigger events and more international. Hopefully soon we will start, hosting the international events.
Okay, thank you, Mahir. We have another question from the audience, from Joanne.
Could I just add, because I think, Vijay, I think it's a very relevant question.
Of course.
A lot of similarities between Singapore and Dubai in terms of a very effective regional hub for events. And I think the underlying that question is how can organizers, venue and government work together to ignite the industry? And I think that's going to require some special and unique thinking. And I suspect that if the government reached out to organizers, they would find quite a lot of creativity in terms of what we would like to see happen to start to bring that volume of traffic and confidence level back.
Okay, thank you, Simon. We have a question from Joanne. Joanne, if you can unmute your microphone and ask the question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Joanne.
Great. Sorry. Hi. Actually, this is for Simon. Hi, Simon. I just wanted to get your opinion as far as the international travel to business events in Europe. As you've said, we're doing shows in China, and that's great, but it's a domestic market mostly. And even though we have all precautions in place, I wanted to know what you're seeing in Germany, like from your Frankfurt partners. Are people too scared to come, or are they just so grateful to be out again? I just wanted to hear what your opinion was on the actual fear of whether they're coming or not.
So there's probably a couple of questions. And hi, Joanne, lovely to see you again, albeit that it's very early in the morning, I think, over there at the moment, or very late at night.
At night, yes.
So the short answer in Germany is that they've recently cancelled most of the major shows all the way through till April, May, which I think is an indication of where the second wave that Europe is experiencing is having its impact. But I think from the research that we carried out in June and most recently September, we initially saw a very strong inclination toward exhibitors only doing shows in their domestic location. So they felt a little safer at home running events than they did venturing out. But in the course of the last 4 months, we've seen that trend shift. And now people are recognizing that the big regional shows are important to them, and they are now considering venturing out. But I think there are two unique questions there. One is, do I feel safe locally and domestically? In order to manage a major domestic market like Germany, like China, like France, like Spain, we don't have that same scale here in Dubai. And then being comfortable with international travel and prepared to reach out. And that's where a welcoming city like Dubai can score, by putting together packages that bring people in and giving them the assurances that it's safe. They're already rated very, very highly for that. I think we just need a little more stimulus.
Fingers crossed, Simon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Simon. There was recently, not recently actually, after the Great Lockdown, a couple of months after the Great Lockdown, there was a economic stimulus package announced by the government of Abu Dhabi and another by the government of Dubai to support small businesses. So maybe, I don't know, Steen, if you can answer this question, but were there any tangible, support systems or support packages specifically for event organizers? And if not, are you aware of any way to do this, to apply for these support packages?
So just as we've seen with some of the support packages that's been announced by the UAE government and also by the government of Dubai to various sectors, there's also been support offered towards the travel and tourism and event industry in general. That involves certain support towards the hotels in Dubai and also attractions and other key partners within the travel and tourism sector. When it comes to events, what we've done at Dubai Tourism, that we have reduced and or waived certain of the cost and the permit fees to ensure that those costs that you normally would have of doing events, they would be removed or reduced. And then, just as the government is doing with so many other sectors, we are constantly monitoring and see where can we provide the best type of support to ensure that the support is being targeted, it's relevant, and it's efficient. And that's an ongoing process. And that's where the dialogue and the collaboration with the industry partners is absolutely key, so we can ensure that whatever support is being offered and the reactions and from government and from Dubai Tourism is something that is also meeting the requests of the organizers.
Mm-hmm. I see. Thank you, Steen. We have a question also from Ian Sterling. Please, Ian, if you are on the screen, ask your question directly. Hello. I can see you. Please unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Sure. Yes.
My question is to Steen, basically. But also, I know Simon touched on it as well in terms of travel, and it's the doubt of getting back to your own country. But how close is Dubai Tourism working with Emirates? I know they've offered sort of medical expense coverage and quarantine costs for should you contract COVID during the while traveling with Emirates. But do you know what the response has been from Emirates in terms of this offer that they put forward, or is there any confidence in traveling to Dubai as a result of that?
Well, hi Ian, good to see you. Thank you for participating today. Yes, you're right, absolutely right that the collaboration and the partnership between Dubai Tourism and Emirates is absolutely key. It's one of the strongest partners that we have as Dubai Tourism. All sort of campaigns that is done internationally, activities, all aligned between Dubai Tourism and Emirates, because they are a key partner. They are connecting Dubai together with Fly Dubai to the rest of the world. As you may have seen, that they've also gradually been resuming their operations. It's more than 90 destinations now that they have included in their network, and we will continue to see Emirates as well as Fly Dubai add more destinations onto their route network. Some of the initiatives that they have announced from Emirates, they have been very innovative, first of its kind within the airline industry. The one that you mentioned just now, them covering or actually providing insurance if you should test positive for COVID-19. So the cost of quarantining and so on will be covered by Emirates. That is all part of building that necessary confidence within travelers. And it's been quite impactful. Obviously, still travel is not at the level that it was pre-COVID, and even though we've opened our borders in Dubai, it's still relatively low numbers compared to the more than 16 million international visitors who come to Dubai every year. But it's helping to build that confidence. And I was fortunate in myself to travel through Dubai airport a little more than a week ago, and I was surprised to see how busy the airport actually was. Very early on a Friday morning, both with people traveling in and out of Dubai and also transit passengers. And there's no doubt that those initiatives by Emirates and also other partners is helping step by step to build that confidence that we need as travelers to be confident to get on planes again.
Okay, thank you, Steen. Mahir, in November 15 and 16, Dubai World Trade Center will be the host for the UFI Global Congress that will be happening in two locations physically, in Dubai and then in Basel in Switzerland. So tell us about this why it's important for DWTC to be the host of UFI Global Congress, and what does it mean for you, and what are your key messages for the audience who will be there, whether organizers or venues and other people from the industry.
Well, thank you, Naji. I think UFI. I mean, everyone knows that UFI is plays a big and strong role in the region and around the world for hosting exhibitions, and what's the latest for hosting exhibitions. And when the decision came and we were given the opportunity to host UFI here in Dubai, we were very excited. So I think it's the best time to actually start up everything. And for us, basically every event is a startup event, and UFI will guide us, will help us, and will support the industry to come back again to this industry. It's nice seeing everyone on the screen, but I still want to see people physically.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Hope to see you all there. Whoever can travel. The guidelines keep changing, on a weekly basis. So hopefully soon, this 2 weeks or 1 week quarantine might change.
Thank you, Mahir. And yes, we look forward to it. Simon, I believe you wanted to add something on the previous note after Steen's answer to Ian. Is that right?
It was more just to highlight
okay,
whether or not the Dubai government can help facilitate that ability to travel safely across a number of key countries. China, Saudi, India, Germany, Spain, Italy, the UK, France, and Turkey would be a summary of key trading international partners who are so important to the events market. If we could build dialogue with embassy or consulate to give people assurances to travel back, knowing they are safe and not requiring quarantine on return, it's the element that's going to make a big difference for us. And if there's a way that we can work with Steen and the government on that, we would welcome that opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you, Simon. We still have a few minutes before closing. Steen, any final remarks in general to the travelers, to the tourists, to Dubai, to everyone around the world now listening to us? What are your final remarks, please?
Yeah, well, thanks, Naji. Well, there's no doubt that we're obviously in a very serious situation, not only in Dubai and the UAE, but the world. And the event industry has been one of the industries that has been hit absolute hardest of many industries across the world. But I think that we are now seeing, with the creativity, with the innovation, and with the determination that there is across our industry, and with a very the big group of very skilled, qualified, and passionate people within our industry are finding solutions, making sure that we can come back. Dubai has been one of the first cities in the world to take that step and to put those necessary precautionary measures and guidelines in place to ensure that we slowly but surely can resume business events. And we will continue to share our learnings, our findings with the rest of the world and with the events industry on a global scale. Because I think in the situation we're in, we're forced to share knowledge and to learn from each other. So we're obviously also, as Dubai Tourism and the government of Dubai and all the stakeholders in the event industry, keeping a close eye on what's happening in the world around us. Where are there some good, innovative solutions being put in place, so we can learn from them and possibly adopt some of that. The key to moving us through this, I've mentioned a couple of times, is collaboration. Collaboration across public partners, private partners, NGOs, even academia, universities, and so on. We all need to be working together to find these solutions. And I think those countries and cities around the world that we are monitoring, those are the ones that seem to get that collaboration absolutely right. So that will be my continued encouragement to everyone, is that collaboration, we need to do it, and that will help us bring us through the situation we're in now.
Thank you, Steen. Indeed, yeah, collaboration is key to our continuity and growth. Mahir, any final remarks to reassure the event organizers about your venue to restart events? We can't hear you, Mahir.
Yeah. So before the end of this year, we will have some B2B and B2C events, and hopefully, going through a live experience, we will be able to share, the experience, whether it's with the organizers, visitors, and exhibitors, and the government. So we're looking at the bright side of it.
Yes, of course, always. Thank you. Simon, any final remarks, especially to your exhibitors and visitors, about the future?
Yeah, I'm positively optimistic. I think there are a few cities in the world that can marshal its forces the way that Dubai can. It has a phenomenally strong reputation. It's clearly seen as a very safe city. It's got world-class facilities through DWTC, and we've always been blessed to have collaborative government partners. I think we are in tough times. I completely agree with a positive outlook, but we have to come up with strong, creative, innovative solutions, because it has been a very tough 12 months, and we need to think inventively as we move forward.
Sure. Thank you so much for this. Thank you to all our audience who joined us today. Thank you, Steen. Thank you, Mahir. Thank you, Simon, again. So before I close, I would like to invite our audience for our next UFI Connect sessions. The next one will be happening tomorrow, a very interesting one, diversity and inclusion in the exhibition industry. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. UAE time, 2 p.m. Paris. And on 8th of October, we have also an interesting session on waste management in the exhibitions industry. It is at 5 p.m. Paris time, 7 p.m. UAE time, maybe a bit late. I would like also to thank our sponsors for today. But before thanking our sponsors, please send your additional or unanswered questions and comments to media@ufi.org. Share your feedback by participating in our survey that you will receive very shortly. And feel free to post on social media after this session closes on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook with #UFI and UFI Connects. Thank you to our sponsors, TSAB Thailand, Qatar National Tourism Council, Shenzhen World, and Freeman. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay positive, and until we meet again, all the best. Bye-bye.